Let's talk about language requirements. What are the language requirements for you in order to successfully enter your selected Studienkolleg? Now, when we talk about the language requirements, we are mostly talking about German because the Studienkollegs, public Studienkollegs, are all offered in German. Why is that? Because they prepare you, as we talked about it, for a test called FSP, for the Feststellungsprüfung. And this FSP is almost always German, in German language. And one of the purposes of Studienkolleg is to prepare you not only in terms of, let's say, mathematics, physics, chemistry, whatsoever, depending on what you want to study later on, but also to perfect your fundamental understanding of German so that when you enter university, you don't have a problem understanding the courses in German. All that said, this implies that when you enter the Studienkolleg, you cannot have zero knowledge of German. Studienkolleg is a very short period, like it's usually 1 to 2 semesters, right? And in these 2 semesters, your German should be perfected so that you can start your, for example, bachelor studies after that and understand everything that professors say in German, right? That means that usually for entering the Studienkolleg, you need to have good level of German. But what is this good level? The good level is defined by 2 factors. One is a certificate, meaning that I have a certification which says that my German is at this and that level. But the other thing is the real knowledge of yours, right? Now let's talk first about the certificate. Where do you need the certificate for? You need a German certificate usually for 2 stages. The first stage is when you apply for Studienkolleg and you want to get invited to the entry test, right? There, majority of Studienkollegs want at least a B1 level of German from you or B2 even. A lot of them ask for B2. For example, Studienkolleg Marburg was asking for a B1 certificate until recently, and now they raised the barrier and said no, B2, because we see that applicants who come to us with a B1 have almost no chance usually, right? That means that you should expect to bring your German level to the B1, B2 certificate level so that you would be able to apply for the Studienkollegs that you want and get invited to the entry tests. In tutorial section, we go exactly and detail by step by step through the requirements of various Studienkollegs. But B1 is really the bare minimum that you should be looking at. And I'm talking about the B1 certificate. What is certificate? That means that you go and attend an exam, usually at the Goethe Institute, in your home country. Usually there is a Goethe Institute. Or a TELC B1 examination. Both of them are accepted by all universities and Studienkollegs and UniAssist, so on and so forth. Okay? So that means that you need to plan your language learning process in a way that you receive your B1 certificate and ideally even your B2 certificate before starting your application procedure. That said, I also said earlier that you have 2 stages for which you need the German certificate. What is the second stage? The second stage is usually, if you are non-European, for the visa application. The German embassy also wants to see that you bring along a certain level of German, usually B1, in order to allow you to go and attend the entry test of a Studienkolleg. Now, there is the possibility to learn a little bit of German in Germany before Studienkolleg. That is a whole complete other story that's called study applicant visa, and that's another type of story, which I'm not going to cover here because it gets super complex. What you need to know is whether you are in Germany now or abroad, if you want to apply for a Studienkolleg, usually you need a B1 or even B2 certificate. But there is also another stage at which you need to have very high level of German. And this time, it's not the certificate, but it's actually your knowledge of German. And that is at the time of attending the entry test. The entry test at any Studienkolleg has a German part to it. Has a tough German, competitive German part to it. And in this German part, you really need to have German knowledge at the B2 level or even beyond that, because there is competition going on, because there are so many of you attending the entry test that only a few of you will get selected. For example, in Studienkolleg Frankfurt, there are usually 500 of you attending the entry test, That means all of you have at least the B1 certificate and then attend the entry test. And they will select in the end, I think 40 or 50 students. 40, I think, was the number. So we are talking about some 10% of success rate at each Studienkolleg. Obviously, those 450 who don't get into the Studienkolleg Frankfurt will have the chance to attend the entry test at other Studienkollegs too, right? And that will be something that we discussed, that you should have entry tests at several Studienkollegs, basically, in an ideal case. But nevertheless, if you want to have high chances, you want to have the capability of choosing between Studienkollegs and easily getting into the one that you like, you need to have high levels of German. That said, learn German as intensively as you can. Get a B1 or B2 certificate from Goethe or Telk Institute. ÖST from Österreich, from Austria, is also sometimes accepted, most of the times accepted, but try to go for Goethe or a Telk. Now, the Goethe Institute also offers TestDAF, and TestDAF, if you have 4 times 3 in all 4 sections, so basically you have at least a grade of 3 at each section, that's also counting. And when we say, for example, a minimum of B1 or B2, of course, a C1 from Goethe or Telk Institute will be also more than enough, right? So we're talking about the minimum there. That said, this is a fundamental part of your process. Learn German along this course as we go, as much as you can, as intensively as you can. It's the master key to your success on your path towards Studienkolleg, and even at the Studienkolleg and after the Studienkolleg. Your knowledge of German will be the key to your academic but also social success.